that go on for me to speak? Yeah. Just for the audience, this meeting is supposed to start at 2 o'clock. I am waiting for a quorum. I can't start without a quorum, so I'm waiting for a fifth member of council to appear.
Here comes the mayor.
Oh, here comes the mayor. Okay. I am going to start on time. The mayor has arrived, and that gives us a quorum. And I would like to start with an introduction to Chrisanne Finnerty, is the council coordinator for council. Linda Travis, a senior planner. Peter Neuhammer is the commissioner of development and infrastructure. Kelly Broom Plumley is the ward councillor for Ward 6. Our mayor, Tony Van Bynen. Councillor Tom Hempen from Ward 4. My name is Dave Kerwin. I will chair this meeting. I'm from Ward 2. And on my right is Kim Pelham, who's the secretary for this site plan, and Jane Twinney, who is councillor for Ward 3. I'd like now to begin, and I will have a format. I will ask the presenter to come forward first, and then there will be questions from the audience and then questions from council. So that will be the format for the day. So I will begin with the presenter, who is Nicole Samponia, Associate Planner, Evans Planning.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Nicole Samponia from Evans Planning. The subject land is located on the southwest corner of Leslie Street and Jeanette Street, located at 17844 Leslie Street. As you can see, this is the existing conditions of the site, so there's just a couple photos taken from different views. I think many of you might have already seen some of these pictures before. The Town of Newmarket's official plan designates the property as commercial, which allows for vehicle sales in service centers. As you can see, the property is outlined in this star right here, the red. On November 24th, 2014, applications for a zoning bylaw and site plan approval were submitted to the town. On October 1st of 2015, additional materials were submitted to the town, which was part of the site plan initial submission process. The town council passed the zoning bylaw on June 22nd, 2015, which changed the zoning of the subject land to automotive commercial use, which allows for a motor vehicle service station, associated convenience, and food store. Also put a holding provision on the site, which has to deal with an additional phase 2 ESA that has to be done on the site to make sure there's no contaminated lands on the site. This isn't a very clear picture, my apologies, so I'm just going to kind of skip through this because you can't see it, but there's a better view here. If I just hit back, it'll go back to the next slide, right? Okay. Sorry, I lost my slide. Subject land contains an area of 0.203 hectares, which fronts onto Leslie Street and Jeanette Street. The proposed gas station will have a kiosk area, which includes the convenience and a takeout food establishment of 154 square meters, and with a building height of 6 meters. The site is designed so all activity will be directed towards the street, away from the residential area to the west. And this, we hope, will minimize all the disturbance for the neighbors. There will be a total of 4 island pumps. I don't know if you can kind of see them right there. And the site will have a total coverage of 17%, and that includes the building and the canopy. So the canopy, I believe, is, I think, 5 meters. The west side of the property is proposed to have a 6-meter landscaping strip, and we're also retaining the hedgerow along the west property line, and along with these trees down here. A 3-meter landscape strip is proposed on the south side, and along is the streets of Leslie and Jeanette Street. These are very conceptual building elevations, colored elevations, of what is proposed on site. If anyone has any additional comments or questions, I'd be pleased to answer them. Do you want me to flip back to an air photo or leave it? Yeah? Or the site plan? Yeah?
Okay, I'll start now with, as
Thank you, and I appreciate, I asked for this to be bumped up. It had been delegated to staff, so I appreciate you coming in. I know there was some concerns, and I believe there's some residents in the audience today that may have some comments or questions about it, so I do want to hear from them. But one of them, I know, just looking at it myself right now, one of the major concerns for the residents, and it was addressed when it previously came to us, was that there be only a right turn only out onto Jeanette Street. So no left turn access onto Jeanette, but only a right turn access only to help alleviate any infiltration going into Jeanette. So that was the major concern that I see that wasn't really, I don't believe, addressed, because it was brought up quite a bit. So perhaps we can also hear from, I don't know if there's any, through you, Mr. Chair, anybody from the audience that wants to come forward.
Is there any member from the audience who'd like to come forward to address this site plan application? Please do. When you come, would you state your name and your address so we can get back to you, please? Come forward and find a chair. The mic is on. Speak into the mic so we can hear you.
Yeah, my name is Harold Schmidt. I'm at 1056 Jeanette, which is right behind here. I only have 3 concerns. One is the hedge that they're talking about there on the west side, which borders myself. In order for them to plant those 3 behind the building, those trees, the only way they can do that is actually cut back the cedar hedge, which is thin to start with, because currently on the property there is a wooden fence with a row of poplars, which I understand are coming out. Well, they have significantly shaded these, cedars, so they're not as heavy as they once were. So if they want to plant those 3 trees, they got to take back at least 2 or 3 meters off the depth of that, the cedars on the west side of their property. So there's really nothing left of the cedars. So I'm questioning, can they put up a fence?
When you finish, then I'll turn it back to the presenter.
The other thing is, right now there's on and off parking issues on Jeanette. What I would like to see is that from the corner down to the west side of 1048 Jeanette Street, that there be no parking on the south side. And the third thing relates to the trees themselves. Are there any restrictions as to the town and the ability to cut down partially those Siberian elms? From what I understand, and a little bit of research I've done, a lot of municipalities don't even want these things. They're like a weed tree. They're big. They overhang both the proposed site and my property. And from what I understand, you can crop them down to, let's say, 20 feet. There'll be less of a hazard to both properties, because right now there's a part of the tree that's laying on the Bell Canada line in the back, and it's shifted to pole. So what I'm asking is, can these trees be cropped down? Does the town have any restrictions in that area? Because some municipalities have restrictions that you can't touch a tree.
What we'll do, we'll try to answer your questions through the party center.
Okay.
The senior planner. Is there any questions that the presenters can answer?
In regards to the hedge on the west side here, I will consult with our arborist. It is believed that those trees can be planted. Landscape architect consulted with our arborist, and they came to the conclusion that those 3 trees would be viable with maintaining that hedgerow. I will confirm with them to make sure that that is actually possible, and I can provide you with my card and get back to you on that.
Okay.
Now the parking spaces, just to confirm, the south side, were you talking about?
No, I'm not talking about your parking.
Okay.
All I'm asking the town is,
Oh, okay,
here,
so that's a town question.
that's a town question to say the street, I want the street, no
Okay.
parking.
In
Which
regards
obviously-
to our site, I don't think that'll have any bearing on our site plan, so I don't really have any comment in that regard. And again, with the elm trees, I'll kind of defer that to staff.
Traffic issue?
The traffic issue in terms of the write-in? I look back at our previous comments towards that, and I believe that it'd be very difficult, because I think we use that as an exit for our trucks, but I'm fairly new to that site, so I'll have to consult with our engineers to make sure that trucks will be able to maneuver in and out of the site appropriately.
Thank you, Councillor Kerwin. A couple of things. We will work with the applicant and the gentleman whose property abuts this property and work out an appropriate interface, be it fencing, plantings, or a combination of both. That is our normal practice if committee were to approve the application. As it relates to parking on Jeanette Street, that is outside of this application, but we can make sure that our engineering staff are aware of the matter and they can look into that. And as far as the trees that need pruning, we can definitely work with our consulting arborist, and if there are trees that are causing issues to some of the infrastructure out there, we definitely would want to have that addressed, so we can look into that as well. As far as the access onto Jeanette Street, we have noted in the preliminary review comments to committee that we're looking to have the movements of the tanker trucks shown on the site plan. One option to control egress out of that particular entrance, we can use signage stating that there's no left turn permitted. We have done that on other sites in town that are under site plan control.
Thank you so much for your clear answers, and thank you so much for your presentation. And what will happen is, at the end of this, I'll ask our senior planner to outline the steps that will happen from this committee to actually.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else from the audience who would like to address the site plan committee? No. Questions from Councillor Quinn?
Okay, just to follow up. I think that was the major concern, was the concern about the tanker trucks turning left onto a residential street, and the residents in the area. It's a fairly quiet street. It's not. It's there's no traffic lights at the top of that street, so I think there's a concern that about the tanker trucks turning left onto and maneuvering going through a residential area. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure out why we would need to have them turning left there. Why they wouldn't be, if they were coming in, entering and then maybe exiting onto Leslie Street, or entering off of Leslie and then exiting, turning right onto Jeanette. I don't see why we need to have a left turn there. So I don't know what the next steps are, or whether this comes. Do we get notified about whether it's going to go forward as designed as such, or is there going to be, is there going to be a modification?
Through the chair to Councillor Twinney. That matter rests in committee's hands. You have a couple of options. You can refer it to staff for processing with some conditions, and we will make sure that those conditions are addressed. You can ask that the application be revised and come back before committee if you wish, but you do have choices there as to how you want to move forward.
All right. I would like to move that it's be referred to staff, but with the condition that there's no left turn onto Jeanette Street. And rather than just no left turn, can it not be done, with the way the curbs are done, so it's only turning right, so that it's actually, rather than just a sign, it's an actual, the design is, that right turn only design. I know I've had several emails regarding that. I know some, people weren't able to make it today, but there was quite a bit of concern about that.
Is there any other comment from members of council or from the audience? Mayor Sanders.
So this is all subject to the preconditions that are outlined on the review notes as well, so that those would all be resolved. Because I didn't see any provision for the snow storage and the daylighting triangle. It said all of these should be clearly shown. Are we yet waiting for that, or? Is that?
Yes, through the chair to Mayor Van Bynen. Those are things that we will typically ask for in a detailed review of the application. The comments that committee has before them today are of a preliminary nature, so we've just captured some of the sort of quick hits, first things, but staff will undertake a detailed review, and that would include things like snow storage and where garbage enclosures are going and so on and so forth.
Okay, good, thank you.
What is the recommendation of my? Yeah, sorry, John. I didn't see John. Sorry, Regional Deputy Mayor John Taylor.
Thank you. I guess I'm curious. If we move this right now with the condition that there has to be what I believe is being referred to by Councilor Twinney as an engineered design that would eliminate left turns out of the station onto Jeanette Street. Then I guess the one thing that was raised by the opponent is do we verify first? I mean, how do the trucks move in and out then? I guess they would have to come in Leslie and out right onto Jeanette. Is that? I assume. And my second question, and respectfully through to Councillor Twinney though, but have we, even with parking changes, we'll often canvass, and have you gotten a considerable feedback? Because I guess I'm concerned about the residents coming after time, and it's engineered now. It's not a sign, and a lot they come up and I assume if it's engineered right out only, they can't get in right in either from Jeanette. Or if they can't get left back out, so they would have to go out onto Leslie to get back onto their own street or the streets in that area. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get a few people, maybe. But if it's the overwhelming desire of that area, that's fine with me. I just want to make sure we've got a good sense from the community, because couldn't they be then in their own way limited on how they can access or exit into their neighborhood?
Deputy Mayor, to whom are you now addressing these questions? To
Well, I guess I'd just like to
councillor?
hear from Councillor Twinney just the level of confidence, that feedback, and that she's or if she feels there's any need or logic in maybe putting out a survey like we do with parking changes, just to make sure that the vast majority. I don't know. I'm just raising the issue because I'd hate to have it engineered, and then have people come back and say, well, you know what, we can't get in and out of there ourselves, and we live right around the corner, and so.
Councillor Twinney.
Yeah, so I have had quite a bit of feedback, but obviously, it's coming from the residents that do want a right turn only. Not anybody coming forward believing that it would be to their benefit to be able to enter that way. So I would suggest that perhaps we do a bit of a survey of the area to find out what the residents, majority of them, do want. Like I said, that was one of the major concerns, and that's why I told residents I would be bringing it forward. But I'm open to doing a survey of the area to see what the residents would like, and I don't know what steps have to be taken to do that. Also, too, I don't know about downlighting. I know that was another concern about the lighting, because it's a commercial area, whether there are going to be lights that are going to turn off at a certain time. Downlighting, the lighting is a big concern too to area residents as well. I know there has been concern from some of the dealerships that are in the area that are close to that residential area. So that's the other thing I would like to see addressed, is to ensure that there's downlighting and perhaps an ability to turn lights off when the establishment closes. So I'll, through you, Mr. Chair, maybe to staff, what process would we need to do an area survey of the Jeanette residents about the left turn or the right turn only out of the gas station?
Are you asking the senior planner?
Yes, please.
Linda?
I think we would have to decide how large of an area you wanted canvassed. And then the question that will be asked is also going to have to look at the functionality of the site. We may benefit from having some further discussions with the applicant. That's one of the things that staff has asked for, is for the applicant to show how the tanker truck is going to come in and out of the site. Whether it's possible to engineer it so that it depends what the concern is. If the concern is the tanker truck turning left, or if the concern is anybody turning left. I think that's what we need to be clear on, because it will have an impact on the design of the site. And I'm not sure what the concern is, if it's general traffic, like the residents that would perhaps be using this station, then making the left and going back home, or if the concern is just how the tanker truck is going to come in and out of the site. And there are ways where we could control the movements of the tanker truck through signage on the property. There's also conditions that we could put in the actual site plan agreement, and still have it a full moves access or egress, so that people that had to go there could also go back home and have full moves, but we could restrict the tanker truck. So I think I need to be clear on which traffic is of concern at this point in time.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I mean, the biggest concern would be the tanker truck coming through the residential area. Anybody that's turning, people that are turning left would probably normally be turning left on Jeanette Street anyway from Leslie Street, because they're going home from work or whatever. So that, I don't think, that's the biggest concern, was having a tanker truck now turning left. So if they're turning left on Jeanette, that means they're going, the tanker truck is now going through a residential area. So I think that needs to be addressed perhaps through staff, through the applicant, and how that can be taken care of.
Can I respond to that briefly now? There was a truck maneuvering plan that was originally submitted with our zoning bylaw. It wasn't required when we submitted our site plan initial submission. So there was one submitted, and what it depicts is the truck moving south down on Leslie Street, making the right onto Jeanette, and making the left into the site. So it would come south, make the right and a left into the site, and then it would come in here and then make a right back out onto Leslie Street. So my only issue is with, if we make this intersection a right in only, that's not a problem, but if we engineer it so it's a right in and right out only, then that truck won't be able to make the left into there. So that would
because of just for its turning
the functionality.
radius.
And it's my understanding that the reason why it was designed this way is if you were to come down south on Leslie Street to make the right turn, I don't think the curb radius would be enough for that truck to get into the site. I think it's a little tight for that truck to make that right turn.
Okay.
Is my understanding.
Fair enough.
Again, I think we're willing to work with staff on that issue. It's
Okay.
something that we would definitely want to discuss.
Perfect, thank you.
Mayor Van Ryn.
Thank you. That is my concern, is that if people use this facility and want to go into the neighborhood, so if we had an engineered right in, right out only, that could create problems, and we might be asked to change that maybe 6 months down the road. So if we were going to want to control traffic, my first thought would be that we would just post a sign to see what the reaction to that would be. But if the truck is the only problem, then we already have right in and right out, or we already have access to the site off of Jeanette. So it'd be hard to argue that we shouldn't provide that. So if it's local traffic, I think we should wait and see what the impact is. Either address it by a sign early without engineering it, or subsequently remove the sign if the neighborhood still finds that inconvenient.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Deputy Mayor, Regional Councillor John?
Along the same lines, I guess, I mean, we could, and defer the ward council, whether do some consultation or make a decision here, but my concern is, if I'm and I don't want to speak on behalf of the residents, because everybody has maybe the other concerns are more important, but I just think if I'm living here and I get up in the morning and I want milk, and I got to come up, go out, wait for the lights, go out onto Leslie, and then cross our lane of traffic to get back in, and then to exit, I've got to do the same thing. It seems like if some residents aren't loving the idea of having a station here, but they're getting that, but they're not getting the upside of the convenience when they want to have it, I think we could hear from some people in the future. But I'm more than happy to hear what the residents have to say on it. But that is, in essence, was my concern. But I'm at the disposal of the ward council. And to the chair, I believe somebody in the audience wanted to add some comments.
I think some of
Excuse me, would you please come to the chair?
Well, I think they've been expressed, so
Your name and address?
my name is Ruth Rutledge, 1032 Elgin Street.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to express a comment? Recommendation of this committee?
Wait for the ward councillor.
Yep, I'll move forward with the, I guess, recommendation that the staff work with the applicant regarding the concerns of the right turn only. I do have, I do have residents that are still concerned about infiltration, but perhaps we can address that through a no left-hand sign, as the mayor suggested. Also, with respect to lighting, I know that was a major concern as well. And with regards to the gentleman that came forward that backs onto that property to address the concerns of the hedgerow there and the trees that are being planted to ensure that there's good buffering between the building, the gas station, and the abutting residents.
Is there a second? Any other comments? Those in favor of the recommendation? That's subject to yes. Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then you'll keep in touch with the residents. Thank you so much. And I'd like to introduce Deputy Mayor and Regional Councilor John Taylor, who's continuing to with I'd like to move on to item number 2. And we'll do the presentation by Merle Riley, subject matter of property.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, committee members, staff. My name is Mauro Cristini.
Okay.
I'm from Metris Properties. We're the agents for Skamari Investments. Here today before you to speak about our recent application for an amendment to the site plan approval, the introduction of a 17,000 square foot Shoppers Drug Mart located at 16635 Yonge Street. That's east of Yonge Street, north of Savage. The previous use at this location, as I'm sure you recall, was a gas bar, which was demolished a few years ago. We've gone through the rigors of environmental testing. The site's been remediated and is clean. We're currently removing the Rapid Lube as well. Environmental work was done there. There was a phase 2 that identified certain steps that had to be taken to remediate the site, and we're undergoing that activity right now. So with the introduction of the Shoppers Drug Mart, as you can see, we basically, the lease for the Rapid Lube had expired and we chose not to renew. And now we're basically going to use that area for additional parking to I guess, accommodate or accompany the shoppers. Not sure how clear it comes through on the plan, but we tried to keep I guess the previous uses as an underlay here, just so we can see that with the access points, we are not introducing any new driveways to the site, so we will be utilizing the existing access points off of Yonge Street. And by doing so, by sort of incorporating the shoppers as we've done here, we've actually eliminated one of the driveways off of the main drive aisle, just entering the site that used to access the gas bar. It's no longer needed, and it's actually created a longer sort of throat to the next intersection that actually would benefit the site because it actually keeps a lot of the cars off of Yonge Street. The elevation that we've submitted and as part of the application, standard Shoppers Drug Mart prototypical building. However, I'd like to draw your attention, the Yonge Street frontage. We have articulated the building in such a way, obviously it is Yonge Street, and we did want to give it a bit more of a street presence So we've obviously chosen to basically soften the look of the Shoppers. We've introduced stone, additional glazing, and canopies and cornices to sort of, again, just to soften the building and to give it that, I guess, that street edge. And with the addition of the Shoppers, again, it is a redevelopment of the site, so with the introduction of new parking, again, this is just a preliminary landscape plan, but we do, our intent is to sort of address Yonge Street and to include some landscaping or intensified landscaping along Yonge Street. And again, we'll work with staff and sort of, I guess, coming up with any additional planting that may be required in the internal parking lot. So that is the conclusion of my brief overview of our application, and if there's any questions.
Kelly Broom Plumley.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm not opposed to the development itself. I think it's fine. I'm not here to oppose that. It's just, ironically, Director of Engineering and Traffic Specialist Rachel Prudhomme and Mark and myself and Mr. Mayor had been out to the site, and we'd been working with residents in terms of the safety of the two entrances from Savage Road into the plaza. And I do believe Peter Nohammer, our Commissioner, also met with a resident whose son was struck in the exact same area. I witnessed a 3-car serious accident in the last 30 days, and I did remain at the scene to speak with the officers and the residents present, and the opinion seemed to be that the entrances were confusing and dangerous. And then I saw this coming forward, and I thought it might be a good opportunity to do everything we can to make sure that, as staff and town and member of council, that we're making sure that it's safe, and with it being a Shoppers Drug Mart, I'm assuming that it'd be an increased number of people entering the plaza, and I believe you said that you're eliminating one from Yonge. I'm not sure if that's going to...
No, not, it was an internal driveway.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that we are doing everything we can during this process to review it with, the irony of everything that we've seen in the last 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And with Peter here, I was hoping that perhaps he could share a little bit about, what you've witnessed and what the residents were saying.
Mr. Neuhammer.
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. Yes, I did have the opportunity to attend the location, in particular concerns over the driveway from this property onto Savage, as well as the property to the immediate south, the other commercial property, which also has a driveway onto Savage, and the pedestrian flows on the sidewalks and interacting with vehicles coming in and out of those commercial driveways at times, in particular at high school opening and closing times. There's a lot of pedestrian flow back and forth across Yonge Street and on Savage Road. Short of closing the driveways entirely, which would be quite a drastic measure and could also lead to other unanticipated driver maneuvers on Savage Road and on Yonge Street trying to access the properties. There are some ideas that we had as staff that we would like to pursue further with respect to increasing the visibility of pedestrians to motorists as they are exiting, in particular exiting the driveways. And also some signage at the driveways to make the presence of pedestrians more aware to motorists. There's also the possibility of some low-hanging branches that are affecting visibility as well. So these are areas that we can review with not only the applicant of this property, but also with the other property owner, privately with them. So those are some of the ideas that we had with respect to improving the safety, but no, your concerns are shared with respect to the conflicts between pedestrian and motorists. And through the review of this particular application, it's possible that we could look at the driveway on Savage from this property.
Kelly?
Again, I'm okay with with what you're doing. I just wanted to make sure that staff is aware and is working with you to do everything we can to make sure that we address all of the concerns that residents seem to be having in the area. And I agree, it's difficult to simply close the entrances, but like I said, it's just ironic that there just seems to be over and over concerns in the same area, and that's certainly not going to help your business much if there's accidents and injuries happening at the same time.
So, Linda, you have the comments of our commissioner and our councillor from Ward 6, okay? Thank you. Are there any more questions from members of council or from the audience? Do I have a recommendation? I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Chair, my biggest concern for the Savage Road area near Yonge Street is probably the plaza to the south, but that doesn't affect this site here. But in terms of improving the visibility, my suggestion would be that if we're going to move the site plan to go forward, it would be subject to addressing the visibility sites that have been identified by our commissioner.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Anything else to add? A recommendation from our Ward 6 councillor? Is he in your ward?
I believe the mayor just identified it, is that it's subject to visibility and any other suggestions that the Peter Nohammer had recommended.
Do I have a seconder? Seconded? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Motion to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry, John. I didn't see you.
I apologize. I missed, I wasn't here for new business, so I'd like to raise an item of new business.
Yes, go right ahead.
I've been mulling this over for a while, or actually, I haven't been mulling over a while. I've thought of it a few times over the last year or two or three, and then never followed through on it. So I want to seize the opportunity today to make a motion that staff bring back a report to site plan committee to look at enhancing the package of materials that we receive or the public would receive in advance. In particular, in two areas. In both presentations today, at the presentation, we received a color rendering or a color rendering of what was going to go on the site. But in most cases, and in fact in both the cases today, we didn't receive them in advance. And that coupled with the other thing, which is we get a full presentation from the proponents. But when we get the site plan, we get about a sentence that tells us what's going to happen here. And to be blunt, I find site plan materials a little difficult to parse and make sense of. There's a lot of technical drawings. So I'm thinking, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but maybe staff can talk to us about having some sort of required rendering in advance that shows us exactly a schematic of what's proposed, and either having the proponent or staff include even a brief one-page explanation or description of what's proposed. I find it often quite, and maybe I'm alone, and then I apologize, but I don't always find it easy to figure out when I'm reading through the materials, what's exactly is really being proposed or what's going here or what might be the salient issues associated with it. I mean, the issues that staff identifies is a different one, but just an overview of this is and maybe it comes from the proponent, but what we're proposing is A, B, and C. There'll be a buffering here. There's this, so this is the number of parking spots or car, and then that drawing. And again, you get it all the day of. The proponents always do a good job of explaining verbally what they're going to do. They almost always provide multiple, and I don't know if the right term is renderings, but any drawings or sketches of the site and in color. And then when I'm sitting here, I'm going, oh, okay, I see now. Yeah, that's okay. But it'd be nice to have that in advance so that I can ask a little more, or I can be a little more informed or ask different, better questions. So that's my long-winded way of saying just if staff could come back and talk to us in a report to site plan about whether we can incorporate some of those or other changes that would make, because heaven knows if I look at it sometimes and I have to make a call to figure out what really is being proposed, or I can't imagine what the public their struggle must be. So I think we could make it more user-friendly, I guess. So anything we can find out about that in the future through a report, and then we can, as a committee, look at adopting changes if necessary, would be helpful.
Now, just a question to you, Deputy Mayor, Regional Councillor John Taylor. Do you want this to be formally moved and seconded?
Yeah, I think so. This
For
is
a
a committee in
report.
its own right,
Okay.
and we
That's
can,
right.
I would assume we can introduce things like this here as
Yeah,
it
you-
makes sense
absolutely.
here than at
Do I have a
council.
seconder for the recommendation? Okay, seconded by Tom Hempel. Any member of council or staff like to comment on it? All those in favor? That's carried. Any other new
you.
business? Motion for adjournment. Regional Councillor, Deputy Mayor, John Taylor, and Councillor Hempel. All those in favor? It's carried. You're out of here on time.
Thank you.
I'm going to give these back to you. It's just,
Thank you.
I don't need them, okay? Thank you, Tom.